Hey there, it's Chris, and welcome back to the next part of the Kai Schulin project, where last time, real quick, we finally figured out how to structure and detail out the knee pads, and today our goal is going to be all about finally the patterning that goes on the legs. But first, this requires a real quick ground rules on how I define patterning. So if we take you and come right back down here, let's say I have this nice piece of something over here. If I'm taking, say, just a wire brush and just kind of doing something like this to give it a round and go up in whatever, this will create that kind of look there. This is going to be applying texture. That's not going to be applying a pattern. So I'm going to say texturing would be stuff like this, stuff like making hair, stuff like fur, things that are kind of more organic shaped. For me, I'm going to define, in this sense, patterning is something that is like repeatable geometric forms. So for that, I do have my nice little, we can now bring Tali back as well. She was in that first preview episode I had done. And you can see on her on the chest here, hopefully, I'm looking at the monitor right now, so I'm sorry I'm not looking at the camera. But we have kind of the chest there, has it. If we look towards the legs, it's probably easier on this side. We have the legs down there. We have towards the back in here. We kind of have that Legend of Zelda kind of rupee looking repeatable pattern. That is what we're talking about on this session. So give me 1 second to get ourselves kind of set up here. Whoop. There we go, we have our two. And here we go. So how do I go about doing that? Well, one way we could go about doing it, as we come down here, is we can get ourselves a straight edge, and we can just kind of come down, get ourselves another, kind of come down. And if we do this, yes, we can create something that we want. I'm just going to give you an example of why we don't do it this way. So just get a little bit or enough in here to kind of show that. So if that gives us our really badly done, and hopefully you can kind of see what's happening is if we just kind of draw lines across, anywhere where like the two lines cross over each other, you kind of wind up with one dominates the other. You have a little bit of the backwash comes into the side. You can see this line's dominant. It kind of gets cut off over here. The ridges are kind of running up. So just drawing lines doesn't really work to make a neat structure on that. So how do we make a neat geographic structure? So at the scale that I do, again, mine is roughly 1/7 scale. They wind up being about 10 inches tall in the end for reasons you'll find out in the next session when we get to hardening. So what I'm going to do on this, so at least this will work for the depth that I'm going from. So let's go and get myself, this is just a piece of basswood. You can get it kind of any kind of, you can get these at kind of Home Depot stuff. You can get them in hobby stores. You can get them kind of wherever. Let me clean off an edge. And just to kind of match Tali over there, we'll kind of give it a little bit of a rupee kind of shape. So we got a little chamfered off the edge. I'm not doing any kind of measurements. This may not line up perfectly. Again, if you're going to do your own, you would actually line stuff up super nice. But I feel like this gives a better idea than the squares that I'm going to be using on hers. So we have the general geographic shape on this. And now from there, I'm going to take this little tool, has kind of the little round end on it. And I am just going to push in like crazy all the way around, not the very, very edge. The very edge we still want to be as good as it is, but we're going to push in everywhere. We're essentially making ourselves a stamp at the end of all this. And we're going to be stamping our pattern into place. Now again, at this scale that I'm doing, using a piece of basswood works fine. If I were to do a bigger scale, I would need to find something else that might allow for this to get deeper. but at this scale, I'm just trying to really push in here because we really want to push, 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 push. Okay, now that we have that, the edge is very thick. That's fine, but we get the general form with that. So I can now just take the nifty end here, get my good old super glue, which will hopefully be good for doing a quick down and dirty demonstration on this. The glue. Prior to this, I did give this a couple attempts prior to this one, and the glue wasn't holding super well for this for whatever reason. So if this one fails on this end, I do have a pre-prepared one on the other end. So bear with. So it feels like that's in there, so then all we need to do is take this, push down, kind of get the end. Yeah, see, that's what was going on. Let's use the other end. I do have another end kind of pre-prepared, which should hold on. So it's going to take that, push down, kind of go where I can see what's going. The camera is 100% in my line of sight. And we're just kind of working the edge. And I'm kind of overlapping the inside edge, so the high point here lines up with the high point, the high points on the previous ones. But we're going to get enough on this to kind of give the idea of just how nice and really easy this is. Now again, I'm kind of rushing through because this is on camera and it's really just a tech demo for how to do it. But when we do the real one, I'm going to be taking a little more care in this. We're also going to go over some of the downsides this will come up with, because although this is working really great right now, as we can see, whoop, we do have pretty nifty kind of pattern going there. We are getting what we want. That does kind of match what was going on with Tolly. However, there is a downside to this, in that I'm going to be using a nice geographic square, which actually, when I did my measurements, let me go and change this just so we know what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to be moving on to the pants on her, on kind of the thigh section there and the calf section on the bottom. And measurements actually have it wind up being pretty much the same as one of these squares. Which, again, if I do, which I have kind of done on this, but it's very small in scale. And we go through, and this, that, and the other, as you can say, yay, it's going to look all nice and good if I do that. However, if we bring you over here, we can go over why there are going to be some little shortfalls with using that. Now, in order to get this correctly applied on here to kind of match the image, this angle right in here, right in there, is not necessarily 90 degrees. Neither is the one in the calf. They're not necessarily 90 degrees. So if I'm using a square piece on here, it may look fine, it's going to look close enough for a couple rows, but as we kind of keep coming down here, it's going to start looking incorrect. It's not going to line up on the bottom. It's like the gap's going to get a little wider on the bottom, or it's going to get a little wider on the top, depending where I kind of go first. It's not going to look 100% correct. So this is great in like an abstract, but again, if that's not 90 degrees, plus I'm wrapping around, you can say I'm wrapping around a cylinder, which is fine, except the top of the calf is wider than the bottom of the calf, the top of the thigh is wider than the bottom. So it's not a perfect cylinder I'm going around. So rather than repeating the geometric form over and over and over on this, the other method I can use is I've taken the edge of this guy and I've actually whittled this down so it's at a point on the top, which again, this camera is not going to zoom in enough to show that, but it's there. And I can take this and I can just kind of run it around. And it's very awkward here because again I'm looking from behind the camera. But again, when I take my time on the real thing, rather than doing the geometric form, I can repeat just the line between it. Again, we're using a stamp motion. We're not dragging it across because that causes the problems. And we use that, and that kind of gets us the same form we want. And I can then do the lines if they wind up being slightly off of square each time. That's going to be fine as I wrap through this. So that's going to be the method I'm going to be using to do this. So with all that said, I might as well move this stuff out of the way and actually start this. And what I may do is I'm going to start this on camera. I think I'm going to come down here so I can get my face a little closer to this. Let me move. I do have the two knee pads. They're both completely done, hardened, and finished. I'm going to move them out of the way right now. And I can start this on camera, and then I'll probably meet you at the end. I'll probably cut this after a short while, and then I'll meet you at the end. So at least in this session, you'll see what the end result of this whole thing will wind up being. Because that would be kind of lousy just to kind of show you that and then walk away. No good is going to come. So let's see if I can put you in a position. I didn't actually test out where I should stick this thing so that you can see what's going on while simultaneously I can. So I'm a little bad in that remark, or that regard. Alright, so if I come here, you're kind of visible. And good thing is, if this doesn't work, again, it's clay. I can always redo things on clay. But I'm essentially just kind of following this top line, trying to stay as even as I can, both in terms of how hard I'm pushing in with this, and in terms of just distance away from an area. And all of a sudden I've gone silent because there's only so much to talk about during this part. This is going to be what we call a time sink. Although it's not going to be a terrible time sink. I can already see this is not going to take super long to do. You can see we already have that pattern. Now I don't want to go from that edge. I need to go from the bottom edge. We still on camera? We are still on camera. Can I see anything? All right, I might just do this one section here, and then I'll catch you again at the end. So let's go and just finish this part off. I can already see I'm going to need to do some touch-ups. But yeah, that is going to be our general flow of how this is going to work. As you can see, we do start getting some decent texture on there. So I'm going to disappear real quick, and I'll meet you back in just a second, and this whole thing will be done by then. So, should be good. See you then. And we are back. And doing this stuff, it took about 20 minutes or so to do, but we got we got all the patterning done all the way around. As we can see, we got the back in there, got the sides, got the fronts. So it didn't take that much time to do, but at least it was much easier doing it off camera, I have to say, than on. I was able to kind of look in there a little closer. Now we haven't actually seen our knee pads actually attached yet, so let's go and pop them up in here, get our whole kind of look going on over here. Gotta make sure I don't actually hit the wireframe inside when I stick that on. And there we have it. We now have a little better looking Kai over here. One more time, kind of coming around. So we are now just about ready for the hardening, which I had said I was going to do this probably as a special Sunday session, and then I realized I actually have an ultramarathon distanced obstacle course race coming up literally next week, or next weekend. So I'm going to be losing time for that anyway, so let's not go and throw some bonus time in here. I'm going to go ahead and put this, the next one will likely be the hardening. There are touch-ups I need to do. I still need to put the straps on the shoe here. I need to put the details on the bottom. There's a lot of kind of cleaning stuff up to do. But you've already seen how I'm doing straps and whatnot. So I might just, because they're little kind of things, I may just finish those types of details off camera, do some touch-ups, and then figure, yeah, next Tuesday will then be the actual next episode. And it'll probably be a slightly longer one because in addition to hardening, we need to deal with this upper body part as well. And there's one more slight detail I need to work out on there. Again, this is going to be pulled apart into pieces. So there's some prep work I need to do involved in that as well. So I don't know if it's going to be a full hour-long session, but it's probably not going to be another like little 15-minute. It's probably going to be more than the 15 to 20-minute session I've had the last couple times. But yeah, so that is where things stand now. And yeah, I think we're not looking too bad. Like I said, a couple little touch-ups, kind of cleaning some things up. But yeah, there we go. Kind of have ourselves a little more one-to-one kind of look. But yeah, we're getting there. And then after that, like I said, I can either do the ammo stuff or I can do the upper body. I kind of want to just do the upper body real quick first. We've spent a lot of time on the legs. Then maybe once I get this done, then I'll come back and do those things on the sides. But yeah, no, this has been Chris, and that is where we are right now. So until next time, enjoy.